I was kind of bored of doing concept art, so I just did this short film on the side, Revenge, mostly by myself. It was so fun, right? All because I was doing keyframes and I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if it moves? So I just learned animation, made it, and I think a year and a half later, it's done. And then after that's done, I was like, I want to make another one. And I started making another one. And I was in the middle of making another one, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you can play this thing? So, because I'm already doing it in Unreal anyways, right? Might as well, let's learn blueprints. And so I'm back to programming again now, right? But I'm combining with my art ability now. So everything, I think, leads this way. And it's kind of the evolution of what I think many people do is like...
Please welcome the brilliant Leo Avero, a powerhouse creative who dabbles in a vast array of creative pursuits. When not creating magic at one pixel brush as an art director and concept artist, or developing and creating his own survival horror game at Saparu Interactive, you won't be surprised to hear that this is still only a few of the many things Leo dives into after listening to this episode. So, let's get going and see how Leo ensures he's able to do all of this to a high level and how his life experiences and philosophy has helped him along the way. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Learn Squared podcast. I'm delighted to welcome on a very awesome guest today, Leo Avero. I knew I mispronounced that, but I guess we'll go with that. How's it going, Leo?
That's all right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Looking forward to chatting with you, man. Let's get all the pleasantries out the way. If you wouldn't mind letting everybody know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so hey, my name is Leo. I'm a concept artist and art director, and also I do so many things. So I'm just kind of comfortable calling myself just an artist now. Yeah. I do short films, and right now I'm making game while working, with Shady Safari at 1 Pixel Brush. And yeah, I just do a lot of things, man. Whatever you can do, I try to get my hands on it. Currently, it's games.
So a lot of things, a lot of hats you're wearing. It's quite interesting though that you mention, like, I guess the title is not so distinct, maybe as it used to be before. I'm hearing that a fair bit now with a lot of guests. I would put myself not in like an elite bracket in terms of like titles, but there's a bunch of things that even I find trying to explain myself is like, okay, which one do I actually use on the business card? Because there's like so many different ones. Was that ever part of the plan? Yeah, that's perfect. There you go. Yeah. So is Lord yeah, go on.
No. It's not actually planned. If you ask me, then I never guessed that I would do all of these things, right? Not because I don't plan to or I don't see it, but because I'm a person that, I just play by ear most of the time. So whenever I see stuff that's fun, stuff that I can do on the side, then I just do it. So that just works its way into me just naturally. Yeah.
So it's been an organic thing.
Yeah. Organic. You can see my toys are all messy. I'm not an organized person, so yeah.
That's organized based on my standards. If you saw my toys, they're not even standing upright. They're like all over the place and stuff.
Because I just moved to this house, and I had to take it out of the box. But I'm too lazy to just display. It's just sleep. Yeah.
When did you move?
I moved this is embarrassing, but I moved like a year ago, so I haven't got to organize the toys.
That's still recent enough for me. 1 million%.
Okay.
Yeah. Mine will still be in the boxes.
Kindred spirits.
The boxes. There we go. No, you're doing well based on my standards. Actually, organization, that's an interesting one, because I think in this industry, like it's whether it's just even dealing with a complicated scene versus just handling loads of different things. Organization's like a thing where you have to face it whether you like it or not. Is that something you struggle with, or is that something that you're good at?
I used to struggle with it, but that's only because I'm trying to organize it like how other people is organizing it. Right? So that's the struggle. It's kind of having a Lego piece that doesn't fit, but you force it. But then I think recently I'm getting better at it, because I got better at working on my sort of chaotic ways of doing things. So it used to be a struggle, and not so much right now, because I think I found my method finally, of course. Yeah.
I'd love to hear it. Music to my ears as well. Like what you just said there about using methods that others have, or not others, but like trying to use a method that's quote unquote proven. So you think it must be working for me. How often or how long were you trying to figure that out? Because for me, it was like it's similar recently as well. Where just do it the way that would make sense for me, as opposed to the different methods. I'd love to hear your adventure on that.
It's for the longest time, and it's ever since I have a memory. I feel like I'm struggling with that. Yeah, seriously. And only recently that I got diagnosed with ADHD, like quite recently. So after that, it like clears up every question, every doubt, and every kind of weird stuff that happened to me in the past. And because of that, I start to look for support groups like subreddits for people with ADHD, and you start to talk with some and with other people with ADHD and start to share, our strategies, and that clicks with me. So that's how I found the way. But for the longest time, it's just, trying to swim when you're like trying to fly when you're a fish, it feels like, right?
Yes. Oh, mate. Yeah. Perfect. Similar adventure. Like we mentioned before the call, my youngest child is autistic, so she's very much neurodivergent. Highly suspect, as you know, with diagnosis and stuff, it's not just like you walk in, they give you a ticket, this is what you are, you walk out. It's a long process. We highly suspect ADHD as well, so I'm definitely in that sphere and understanding of like the behaviors and the methods and almost just the way how different it is for people. I've got a few of my friends who I'm nearly 40. One of my friends is well past 40. He only got diagnosed recently, and similar things that you mentioned as well. Like once that was on his radar of like, oh, this is quote unquote what I am. All of the, I guess like you mentioned making a game, all of the secret locations on the map where the secret packages are have all been found, and you kind of know, oh, this is how things are and this is how things.
Because for the longest time, he probably thought he probably thought he got a problem for the longest time, right? Yes. But then I think the first step to fix that is to, kind of, what do you say? Locate the problem, and then it can work. Sorry, what was your question? I was cutting you off.
No, that was it. It was just like your origin story on your path to diagnosis. Like, when did that become on your radar of like, oh, this is me, or I need to kind of get it addressed? It's a loaded question, because I also know some people who I'm going to use the word denial, not in a critical way, but for some, they don't want to face it. And for some, facing it is like the worst thing that they can possibly, it's torturous for them. And I've met some people who have experienced that. So it's interesting, as opposed to like not being critical of them, but there's a thing where people don't want to face it. Whereas like yourself, it makes sense for them to face it. So when did that journey start for you, and why did it start?
Funny enough, it for the longest time, I just thought I'm just a weird person who's like cannot get organized for the love of God, right?
Yeah.
And I'm very, as like dopamine oriented with ADHD, right? So you got to create dopamine for yourself. So for the longest time, I didn't have a suspicion at all. And then, I met this girl who's now my girlfriend. She's also an illustrator, and she actually studied psychology. And she told me, hey, you should get checked for ADHD. And I was like, why? You should, because you're showing signs. So I just went there and, got screened and stuff. I went through the process and got diagnosed. And funny enough, it just doesn't feel like anything, big to me. It's just like, okay, I know this about me now. So what's next that I can do? I know for some people, it's especially when you're realizing at such a, later in life, it can be devastating for some people. Yeah. But for me, it kind of makes me happy too, because right now I have something tangible that I can work towards. You know what I mean? Because for the longest time, I feel like I'm just stabbing in the dark without hitting any target. So now the target is like showing, okay, I can address that now. I'm that type of person. I'm the type of person that if you ask me good news, bad news, I'll always ask about the bad news first.
Interesting. Why is that?
Because I have this obsession and this is the ADHD probably, I don't know. If there's a problem, just nip it in the bud.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just, let's talk about the problem first. We can be happy later. Happiness is always there in the world. The problem we need to nip in the bud.
Oh, that's perfect. I mean, like, so that sounds like, obviously it's always referred to as a superpower. I guess that's one of the reasons why, because certain scenarios that maybe normal people would face, it would be a different solution. Whereas, like you said, you tackle it on the bud. That sounds like that must have been an advantage for you throughout life then, right? Like being able, you were the guy that was, okay, I will solve this problem, or I will at least try and figure it out. Is that the case?
Yeah. I'll try to figure it out. And this might be unrelated, but it's an anecdote, right? When I was, I think, fourth grade, this should have been a sign of me having ADHD, but we have these math problems that we need to solve, right? And there's a formula that the teacher taught, and everybody has to use the same formula, right? But me, I don't pay attention in class, so I didn't know about the formula, but I managed to fix the problem, like to solve it I just figured it out, right?
Yeah.
I think it's not math. I think it was physics class, but doesn't matter. It's the same, but it's not really the same, but similar. But yeah, I solved it with my own way. And the teacher was like, no, you cannot solve it this way. You have to follow my way. So that's like the story of, I think, many people with, neurodivergence, everywhere in the world, which is, they find it hard to fit in structures. Right. And that's, I think, one of the instances that I clearly remember me kind of doing it my own way.
Yeah.
And people rejecting that, which sucks, right? You shouldn't do that as a teacher. You should nurture, but it's a long time
How did
ago.
that make you feel at the time? Like, was that like a constant trend that you found? Like,
yeah, it's a constant trend.
Yeah, because there's a difference with like, okay, not finding the problem. I've told you how to do it that way, versus like, oh, I found the answer, but now your brain's trying to comprehend the fact of like, well, I've got the answer. The whole point of being here is to get the answer. Yeah. But now we're having a problem with the steps taken there, right? Like you walked forwards, I walked backwards, we got in the same place. Did that like affect, I guess, how you live life, or did that make you into like almost like a rebellious spirit?
It made me distrust authority, unfortunately, or fortunately, if you're depending on how you look at things. But I was a really bratty kid. When I'm really energetic, I just move around. I don't listen to people. And when the teacher said that, I was like, yeah, you don't know shit, teacher. And I was like, what, 8? So funny. But yeah, from then I just feel like, okay, maybe the adults doesn't have all the answers. I realized that because I clearly found the answer here.
Yes.
Right. I checked it with my friends. It's the same answer. But why don't she let me, use on my own way? That's stupid. Yes. So that's just a constant trend. There's another instance of another math class, further. I think I was in high school, and it just keeps happening that way.
And when that's a good realization actually at the age of 8. Realize, because we always get that realization at some point when you're growing up that, oh, hold on, the people that are telling me how to live don't really know the answers, and you have to find your own answers. Finding that before the age of 10, even at the age of 10, is like a big deal. So when did you, and maybe it's not even the case till today, when did you kind of get to a point where that almost didn't matter anymore about whether you did things the way everyone else needs to do things or tells you to do things?
Oh, you mean like when does it feel for me like I don't care about what they think, or?
Yeah, I guess basically when do you get to the point where like it didn't matter anymore? So I guess there was like a lot of conflict and friction because schools and institutions
I see
they tend to do things, and then now it's a case of like, well, I don't.
What's the moment when there's no friction?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's in university, because I went to an art school, and the environment tends to be very flexible in more than public schools in art schools. So it really allows me to just be who I kind of feel like I'm always am. Like it's just I can finally do me now. Right. So I think that if I went to another type of school, let's say maybe I went to a STEM related field, it wouldn't be the same, I feel like, because the education system in this country unfortunately doesn't really teach you to comprehend stuff. It teaches you to memorize. So that's why a lot of us, win at science, science, what do you call them? They win prizes, abroad, right? They win gold medals for science, the kids. Okay. But when it comes to inventions or, any advanced kind of knowledge in science, I think we're really lacking, because all we do is memorize, so we don't comprehend. Yes. I realized that in high school. Because I had a talk with a friend of mine, and his dad is a university teacher, is a really cool dude. And we had a long talk with him, and he told us about. I think partly he's venting because he is in the system. He's venting like, the system is shit, man. You guys are blah, blah, blah.
No, that's an interesting point. Do you think, so looking at, obviously you got your own perspective, which let's assume that it's biased. Like whenever we have our own take on things, it's obviously based on ourselves. But looking at it now, with the time that has passed and stuff, do you think that is the correct way to do things? Or do you think it's a limited way to do things?
Which one? The
like basically memorizing to succeed in life versus
I think I think like many other things, it's a tool, right? Of course, at some point in your life, having a good memory or being able to memorize a lot of stuff will help you. But I feel like it's not the whole thing that I think to me, I don't know what's correct, but to me, I think what feels right is when you have like a rounded kind of comprehension, and versus you probably memorize, and it's just like any other things, you have to be rounded. You cannot just be kind of be really, really awesome at one particular small thing like memorizing, and be bad at comprehending. You cannot do that. Although I think if you comprehend and you don't memorize, you'll probably do better. So that's my bias.
And what do you think? Actually, let's go back a bit. Your existence and your experience, and like obviously your experience with ADHD, is that the reason why you are a creative, or did you find creativity? That makes sense.
I find that many people say that. It might be true, but I don't know. I think many people without ADHD can be creative. So I think creativity is just having the courage to be honest with what you feel and what you want to make. I think that's creativity, because it's all about what happens to you in your life and how you choose to kind of bring it into a canvas or to whatever medium that you like. And I think the key is to just allow yourself to be unchanged for a little bit, right? And don't just throw away everything and just do what you want to do. I think that's the first step towards a more creative life, I feel like. Right. But I think ADHD, because of how neurodivergent people's brains work, I think that's certainly a factor why, I do things differently, and many people do things differently, but it's the same also for neurotypical people. So I don't think any other is more creative. It's just a different way of cognition, if you know what I mean. A different way of working. Yeah.
When did your, I guess, creative journey start? Like, is there like a significant origin point for that?
Oh yeah, there is. So I was 6, I think, and I really loved watching this cartoon series, Tom and Jerry, the rat and the mouse.
Yes,
Tom and Jerry. And at some point, and I've always liked drawing, right? I like drawing more than anything. And at some point, I took a paper and a pencil and tried to draw Tom the cat. And it was so bad, and I couldn't draw the body, so I just make an owl instead. So because a cat is already like an owl, the head, right? So I turned the cat into an owl. My grandma saw it, and it was a bad drawing, but she was really proud and showing it to everybody. And I think that feeling of being appreciated is led me where I am today. Because without that, I wouldn't have the confidence to pursue. Because by doing that small thing, she lets me know that, hey, you can do things, it can be cool, and it feels good. Right? You are appreciated. So I'm basically just keeping chasing that high ever since. Honestly. Wow. Yeah,
that's
it's so important, man. Yeah, especially with kids. Oh, so important from an authority figure like a parent. Yes. Yeah, because my grandma raised me, so she's like a parent to me more than my own real parent. Quite honest with you, but yeah.
No, that's absolutely true. And as a parent myself,
kids, right?
Yeah. No, as a parent myself, like just all we need to do is just introduce them to creativity and art. Obviously, like it could be anything, like just pen and paper to actual crafts to whatever else. Now there's digital involved, so you can do whatever, right? And it's hard to put in words, but the benefits that they get, whether it's just letting them unwind, let off some steam, regulate the behavior, or just flourish and connect to your different parts of your mind and brain, art is one of the best weapons as a parent. And I say the weapon as a literal point, because sometimes it's, as you saw before the call, it's a battle with your kids sometimes. I love the Tom and Jerry story because I have a similar story. When I asked that to you, I was thinking, what is one of my memories, early memories? And I had a similar Tom and Jerry story as well. And a similar scenario where it wasn't to family, it was to, well, I guess kids we hung out with, was more like a rival. And the look on his face when I did this awesome drawing of Tom was like, yes, there is something to this. And that appreciation of that, yeah, exactly. So I think one of my early memories is ego related. So that's interesting. But yeah, Tom and Jerry is just, so what was it about drawing? Was it like expression, or was it the technique or the craft involved?
It's just so much fun. And another thing related to my grandmother is she's a really intense Chinese lady who's like 155 centimeters tall. So like, just imagine this small Chinese lady who's really intense and mad all the time. That's my grandma. And my grandpa is the intellectual type, reads book all the time. My grandma is more like the craftsman type. So I think at some point in our life, every furniture that we have in our home is basically made by my grandma. She made it by herself. Yeah. Awesome. She's really good at woodworking. And she was working at a plywood factory for most of her life. And then she can garden, she can sew, she can make really beautiful tapestry. So she did a lot of things. And just the fact of being around that kind of a person, I think indirectly stamped into my mind that if you want to do things, you can just do things. Nobody's going to judge you. Right? Because look at grandma. When she decides she wants to make a chair, she just went and make a chair. When she decides she wants to make a tapestry, she just buy some threads, make it. When she decides she wants to, I think at some point we have like 10 chickens in our house because she decided, okay, I want to have chickens now. Let's get chickens. Sick. Yeah. And at some point she planted melons. And so a lot of things. I think she had ADHD too. But yeah, that I think having encouragement and that kind of role model will really, affect how your trajectory in life is. And related to drawing, that's why I think I do many things now. I think just by looking at my grandma, and I see this with many artists when they're like, hey, should I learn this? Should I learn that? Is this going to be beneficial? It's going to be hard. I never have that, right? If I see, hey, Unreal's fun. Hey, let's install, try it out. If you don't like it, throw it away. No problem. Nobody's going to judge you. Police is not going to put you in handcuffs and, beat the shit out of you if you don't do it right. No,
not yet anyway.
Just do it. Yeah, not yet. Yeah. So I kind of cannot relate when people do that because what's the cost, man? It's just like you have internet, right? Just download it and try it out. Why ask?
No,
so
that's
my grandma's my hero.
Yeah. So was it mainly just seeing your grandma through example? Like, did she ever say, Leo, you need to do things like this? Or was it just you watching her, just seeing her basically just see a problem or see something she wants to do? She figured it out and did it, just observing purely.
I'm just observing her. Yeah. And my dad is the same way. Yeah. My dad, because of the situation back then, he didn't even finish primary school.
Right.
But he works as an engineer for some reason. And because one of his friends is an engineer with a degree and, a childhood friend. So got my father to work with him for the longest time. And my father doesn't even have a degree. He just learns by observing, learns by himself. Like he's really good at learning. And he did a lot of stuff too. Like he made guitars, if you can believe it.
Nice.
As a hobby.
Like legit guitars or like
guitars,
at least like
guitars.
So like they could be used by a professional musician.
Yeah.
Sick.
And because my grandma had all this wood laying around, right? And he was like annoyed because, if you don't want to use it, then why don't throw it away? And my grandma was that's expensive. Okay, let's make a guitar.
Nice.
And he made it just by measuring the guitar I already had, looking at the material, how it constructed, and disassembled my guitar, unfortunately. But he promised he's gonna make me a new one. But yeah, he did. So it's always in the family. I think we never, my dad, my grandma never thought of never had any doubts whether they are can do things or not. They just do it. If they can't, then it means that they can't, and they just stop. They don't like it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
But
cool. So it's like a
if it's not
logical
proven
approach.
yet, if it's not proven yet, then just do it, man. Like,
Yes.
like the door in front of you, you hold the key, right? You just have to use it. I think that's growing up, just observing that, because they never told me to be anything, right? My dad never told me to be anything other than just be decent, don't steal. That's the only two things that he keeps saying to me: be decent, don't steal, don't gamble. And that's all. I just observed them.
Amazing. And so, like you've said, that's something that you use to this day. Like, it's basically part of you. It's your prime directive. So how did you nurture your creativity, and how did you turn that into a career?
Oh, how did I nurture it? So I followed their step. I tried a lot of things. I remember my dad got me these DVD of, I think, Walking with Dinosaurs. Was it?
Yes, I remember
the BBC one. I think the old one. Yes. And in the DVD, and not DVD, I think VCD. I can't remember, but
yeah, this is pre-HD era when they came out.
Yeah. It's a box set, right?
Yeah.
There's a behind the scenes when they make the animatronics for the raptor, and turns out it's not an animatronic. It turns out the actor put his arm into it.
Yes.
So
I remember
immediately,
that. Yes.
Yeah. Immediately, because my dad had a general store back then, so he had a lot of cardboard laying around, right? So I just took some cardboard, some cutter, and just tried to make one myself. Obviously failed, but I got like a really badly made dinosaur arm.
No,
so
that's cool.
From
that's
that,
cool.
Just observing, and then I think a lot of it is also my media diet, because I like watching a lot of stuff. A lot of different stuff. I have this obsession with films ever since I was a kid. And then my cousin introduced me to video games, and then I found out that people make these things and movies. So ever since, I'm just have this obsession. Okay, I'm either gonna work on movies or games. And from there, I just, researched all the steps. What should I do? And then I found Feng Zhu, and many other people. And then, here we are, right? That's the short version of it. But it starts with exploration, exposing yourself to a lot of things.
What age were you then? What age was that?
The dinosaur, I think, is the same age. I think I was 7, 8, 9. Wow. I remember, but when the time I researched it, I was much later in life, because I think I was in high school, about to go to uni, when I researched about concept art, when my cousin introduced me to it. But before that, I did a lot of things, right? Because I didn't always do art. I tried programming for several years, junior high to high school. And then I found that, hey, I think I used all the dopamine here. I cannot find it no more. So
I like that. Yeah.
So then I got to high school, and my classmates were really good at playing guitar. I couldn't play guitar at all. And I was like, hey, can you teach me? So he taught me some basic, and and I think I bought a guitar after that, like a really cheap one, the one that my father later disassembled, and bought the guitar, and look at some YouTube videos, and going to my friend's house, forcing him to teach me, and I got good at it. And I think fast forward 2 years later, I was in a band playing guitar, and I was in also other band, which is a black metal. So I have 2 bands, right? And then I tried music, and then I got bored playing in the band, because 5 high school kids with big egos doesn't work, right? So I learned music production, Fruity Loops, because I found out that, hey, because my band had to record our music, right? So when we record, I saw the guy, hey, what software is that? He was like, hey, this is Fruity Loops. Oh shit, I need to learn this. So then I learned that, right around when the band is breaking up. So, hey, let's download some pirated version of Fruity Loops. I bought it now, so don't sue me.
Yeah. Do you still use it today?
Yeah, I still play around with it. Nice. I learned it, and then I made some music from my own, like EDM at first, and then later I go to kind of trying to make some fantasy type of music. And then there comes to a point when I have to decide, and then when my cousin introduced me to it, right? So I have another path now. Okay, so this video game thing is I've been wanting to do this since I was a child, right? But during the journey, I keep doing all these different things. So I have to decide: do I want to do music or art? And I decided to let's do art because this is the most constantly existing obsession that I have. So it will last a long time because I think if I chose music, I would probably get burned out for a few years ago because it's not a constant in my life. It's just a fling, right? But art is the constant. And then I realized when I get into art, okay, so art is not it. What's meaningful to me is I like to create media. And that I realized kind of 2 years back because I start to find it kind of boring sometimes to make the same kind of art over and over and over again. And when I start doing my short film, I feel like the same way again when I first time, make drawings and make my music. It's the same feeling. So right then and there, I realized, okay, maybe what I like is not any particular thing. Maybe what I like is just creating things.
Cool. And where is that now? Like, are you still drawing? Is it still firmly art based, even though obviously you're trying different things? Or do you see yourself almost finding the next thing now, if that makes sense?
Yeah. It's still art related because I feel like as a concept artist, we are equipped to do so many things because we know so many things, right? We have to design all sorts of stuff. And we're really good at art and we have taste, right? We have taste in art direction. So I think out of anyone in the field, concept artist is one of the most fortunate ones because we can spread our wings in many, many ways or evolve it. Like what I'm doing is, I was kind of bored of doing concept art. So I just did this short film on the side, Revenge, mostly by myself. It was so fun, right? All because I was doing keyframes and I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if it moves? So I just learned animation, made it, and I think a year and a half later, it's done. And then after that's done, I was like, I want to make another one. And I started making another one. And I was in the middle of making another one, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you can play this thing? So, because I'm already doing it in Unreal anyways, right? Might as well, let's learn blueprints. And so I'm back to programming again now, right?
Nice.
But I'm combining with my art ability now. So everything, I think, leads this way. And it's kind of the evolution of what I think many people do is like, because of obviously the technology now with AI and stuff, I think it's going to move where each artist is not going to be super specialized. I think the specialized ones are still going to be there, but the job is going to be different. But I think a lot of artists is going to be their own kind of, their own artists for lack of a better term, meaning the content or the creation is gonna be direct to the audience, and artists are going to be able to do bigger stuff, evolving from what they did before, I think. So I think for me, it's just kind of pushing what can I do with all the skills that I already had.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like, it sounds like we just mentioned there, like it's kind of gone full circle, like the programming, which was earlier on. That you didn't abandon, but obviously it's like, I'm moving to this thing now. But then slowly that has a purpose, and it's kind of. I always like to think of sometimes like you've seen the Terminator, right? Then the second one with the T-1000, like it's broken apart, but it's slowly all coming together to make this super killing machine. But how do you manage all these different things? Is it purely just on, like you said, like your intention and your desire to achieve what you want to achieve? Because I'm sure it must get like challenging trying to shift from programmer mode to creative mode to director mode.
Funny enough, it's not planned, and it's not hard to for me. I don't find it hard to switch, and that's because how my brain jumps around really quick, and it's a superpower but also a curse sometimes. And I find that it's just me wanting to do more of what I'm already doing. It's not like a big ambition or anything. It's just I want to do more of this thing, reach the audience, because I think I want to reach the audience in a more effective way.
Mm. And how is that journey going? Like, have you found your relationship sort of with your audience evolve and change, or has it been the same since when you were just doing concept art?
It changed a lot because in concept art, I've already a lot of people who appreciate my stuff, which I'm happy about. And when I get into game dev, it's almost like starting from zero again because nobody knows who you are, right? You're new in the circle. Some people talk shit about us, right? Yeah, sure, yeah. And some people talk shit about us. It's almost like putting yourself in a really uncomfortable position again.
Yeah.
So that changed, right, with the audience because now suddenly you're nobody again, which is fun. I like that. I like the challenge.
Yeah.
To prove yourself that you can do this thing. And then what also changed is that I used to work a lot of my stuff, like work on it alone, like my short film mostly alone, apart from some help with writing because I was bad at it. But everything else was me. But making a game, you cannot do it alone anymore, I feel like, especially with the kind of game that we're making. So the kind of growth I'm experiencing right now is also leading a team and being able to collaborate with a team and to be not so precious with your stuff and to be able to trust people and delegate. Because it's like, I'm sure you understand this. It's like when you have a personal project, it's like your baby. Handing it to other people is scary, man. So I think it's a growth on that regard too, because I'm leading a team now and it feels really rewarding when you can kind of steer the ship in the correct way and everybody's happy, nobody's bickering and you trust people.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. And leadership alone, like, is a very interesting topic, I find, not just only in any space, in any part of the field, any part of the world, whatever, right? Did you, so yeah, I'd love to know about your leadership journey. Like, what triggered that and how have you found it?
So yeah, it's really organic because obviously I need a team and suddenly I'm leading them, right? And because we posted a trailer that got so many attention locally, so many people reached out to me to be a volunteer, which I'm happy, I'm grateful. And now we're working on the game together. And on the leadership side, it's actually thanks to Shadi Safadi because I think I was working for him as a concept artist for like several years before he offered me like, hey, do you want to be art director? Right? Because I think I was like, okay, let's try this. And I think from being that, it kind of gives me the necessary practice to kind of have that leadership role, because it's no longer you and your canvas, it's you and other people, and you have to find a way to communicate clearly first, and then to be understanding to each artist's personality and how you can deal with them, right? Meaning not coddle them or not wrangle them, but understand them as a people, what they need, how they work, and, you also have to earn their respect, of course, right? Because I think art director is more like a managerial job more than anything. It's of course it's artistic, but it's highly managerial too. And you have to manage the timeline, make sure that everything's on time, and make sure you have a clear vision of what you want and how you want it to be. So it really gives me the necessary practice. And then when I start the team, I feel like I'm just doing the same natural stuff. It's not a shock because I've been doing it for like several years already.
Wicked. So like
it's always a natural process.
And have you found any friction, like being in a leadership position?
The
like
friction
you said, like there's always like it's like similar to like being a parent or anything like that. It's like everyone's going in different directions, and you're trying to like keep the ship straight and all that kind of stuff. Is it? Yeah. What's that like? Like, is it also equally easy on that front as well?
No, it's tough because a lot of the friction comes from myself because I still find it hard to trust people sometimes because, it's your baby, right?
Yes.
But then I learned along the way that if you trust them and they don't make it the way you want it, not because they are bad, but because maybe you don't communicate clearly. So maybe fix that.
Yes.
Right. So I have learned to look inside first before you look outwards. Because more often than not, if you're on the leadership position, the ball is in your court, and that's one. And then another one is, because we are artists, we're not a lot of us is not the most organized people. So having them, hey, guys, please name your files like this. And guys, please update it here. Guys, it's always a challenge, but my girlfriend helps me with that. And another thing is because we're an indie team, so we wear so many hats, right? And even though I'm leading them, I'm still doing the code, I'm still doing the concept and doing the level, set dressing and all that. So juggling it is also tough because I'm sure but because it's really annoying when you're really into making something, you're really deep into the flow and somebody's like, hey, this is my update, please check. And you have to check it right now because in 2 hours they're gonna clock out and you won't have the update today. So you gotta destroy, like, I'm kind of disrupt the flow and continue again. So that's kind of annoying. But I'm getting used to it now, although I'm not good at it yet.
That's wicked, man. It also sounds like your attitude towards anything that you do is more a case of like you just explained, obviously, like for some people that can be really off-putting. And it can really almost demotivate him to the point where like, I don't want to keep doing this. Yeah, it seems like you are just like, okay, this is something that's kind of been like an issue. How do I overcome this? And would you say like that's the kind of a better part of your formula? Like always, like if you reach an obstacle or something that's like a friction point, how do you navigate those things?
I just... first of all, I think just look for what's the most obvious thing. And I think many people, have this thing called common sense, right? Because but it's unfortunately a lot of us don't have it. Yeah. But but I think just thinking any friction, I think, can be solved by just thinking first, okay, what's the most reliable step that I can think of here? If not, then maybe look at myself. Then if not, then okay, what did other people, react? How did they react in this situation? So research that, maybe go to forums, talk to people. But again, I think it's my upbringing. I never see those things as an obstacle. I see them as like checklists to solve. Because because I went through a lot of things in my life. I don't claim to be the most downtrodden people, no. But, I went through my parents' divorce. My dad went to prison. My grandma struggles with depression, attempted suicide twice. My father also. So I always keep thinking if I have any adversary, I was like, hey, I went through that. This is easier. Let's look for a way. There must be a way.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you have went through all of that and you went through it, you were like, yeah, it's just, the worst thing that can happen is me dying, and I'm not dying right now. So any day above the ground is a good day. Yeah. Yes. Any day above the ground is a good day. So I just try to take it as it go, you roll with the punches and, just play it by ear mostly and talk to people if you need guidance.
Oh, that's very powerful and also quite elegant because it's simple. It's like another way to explain it is perhaps just give yourself context, put it in context.
Yeah, I like that.
Compare it to
it's
like
simple.
What's the worst thing that has happened to you? Is it feeling worse than that right now? Even if it might be. Use reference point. Obviously, artists love reference. We know how important it is, and just know that most things, like you said, unless it's like a fatal scenario, will always pass at some point. Like they will not. It's always a finite thing. So that's quite inspiring to hear. What's awesome about being a leader? Because when you were speaking about it, you could tell like your face lit up speaking about it. Obviously, yes, it sounds like a headache. I'm sure a lot of us are hearing that thinking that's a headache that none of us want. Yeah. But it seems like you get a kick out of it. I guess first part of that question would be is, you said, like, I think you described it perfectly about it's your baby. And how would you describe a good method or process to hand over your baby in a healthy way so the baby still survives?
So I think the first thing to handle that is obviously choosing the right people, people that you can really trust. That's the first thing, I think. And that's, I think, the most important part, quite honest with you, because from there, if you choose the right person, it's like choosing the right babysitter, right? Is she like an alcoholic? Is he do drugs, right?
Yes.
Obviously, you want to screen them. So I think that's the most important part. After that, it's just about communication. And the rewarding part is, I used to think people in leadership roles, especially like game directors, got a kick out of having their vision come to life, which is also true for me. It's fun to see your vision slowly come to life. But I think what's more rewarding is having people trust you. It's a really heartwarming and cool feeling when people are like, okay, I did this. What should I do next? I trust you. So, because that is harder to get, I feel like, from people, right? Trust and respect is hard to get. And I really appreciate that about the team. And I wish that many people would be able to experience the same thing, because it really makes you feel good, you know? And will make your ego go big too if you don't handle it the right way. Like, you'll start to think yourself the shit. But luckily, all the obstacles and all the problems will keep you grounded if you look at them, you know, objectively. Because many people, they see a problem, they close their eyes, and before you know it, the product sucks, right?
Yes. How long did it take you for you to build your team?
It's fairly quick, honestly.
How big is it now?
It's fairly quick. It's a small team. We have 6 people to 8 people. I think a lot of them is part-timer, meaning they just contribute whenever we have a special need, right? But the constant is, I think, 4 to 6 people. And my brother's also helping because he's a really good programmer, and no C++ because I'm really used to C++. My brother's helps, but yeah, it's a small team, but we don't want to grow too big yet because we're still on the phases of making the experience solid first before we kind of look into options of growing. But yeah, and to if you don't mind, to go back to that thing that we talked before, is I find it that sometimes people are too smart for their own good, right? And I don't mean this the bad way, but I mean, when you go to a gym, right, you see it's the biggest guy is often the dumbest motherfucker there is, right? Because if you ask them, hey, dude, you were so big. What did you do? Oh, I know, man. I was just lifted like this, man. And you see, like, the technique is like, according to many scientific gym YouTubers, it's like, hey, it's not actually effective even that way. It's not the full range of motion. And the big guys are like, I don't know, man. Just lift it, right? Yeah. And they're the biggest guy around. Partly it's genetic, but partly it's just because it's a dumbass. It's just do it. Doesn't know any other way, right? What's the problem? I want to get bigger. Okay, so just let's lift things. Let's not think about it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how I approach a lot of stuff. Of course, I still think about consequence, right? But I think this is also the ADHD is like, I tend to just jump around and just go ahead. I'm the type of person that would jump first before I dip my toes in. It's simple, but yeah. Sometimes you just gotta shut it down. Just do it, man. Right? Sometimes there's no better way. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, run with it.
And have you found that affect the team positively or negatively?
I think it affects the team because I don't push that to the team, right? Because they have their own ways of doing things. But for me, it's positive because it works for me. But for some people, I find that I need to sometimes convince them that, hey, don't worry about it. Just do it this way. Trust me, this will work. And later down the line, if it doesn't work, then I'm going to be proven wrong. And I'm going to be embarrassed, which is all right. And they're going to be like, hey, I told you so. But if it works, then, everybody's happy. Yeah. So it's always that. Because I don't think being a leadership role doesn't mean that you have to make all the right decisions. It's about having the humility to admit that you're wrong when you do so.
Yes.
Yeah. No, because if you never admit that you're wrong, then your team is going to hate you. Obviously.
I think it's, as someone who's in a leadership position from yourself, to hear that, and a lot of people hearing that, I think that is incredible, because throughout my career in many different industries, not just only creativity, I have been in a situation where not quite leadership, where like, the top dog, so to speak, calling all the shots, just having responsibility, but always worked underneath people. And I've seen a mixture of different leadership types, right? And a lot of it is what you just mentioned there about the insecurity side of things, and a trust where there's both ways. Like those that are successful, the trust is on both sides.
And loyalty goes both ways too.
Exactly, yeah. And then there's another one where it's like, for different reasons, but people project leadership or leadership traits, like you said, like they think it has to be this particular way. but they don't know what they're doing. So then they just kind of like throw shit at the wall until it sticks. And there's like so many different types, and some are successful, some are not, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for you to say things like humility and understand the process, that it's basically like just the simple terms, like it's okay, like we're all figuring this out, and it's a case of getting enough data. Like sometimes you have to break things to get the data to know whether things will work or not, and just keep moving forward. So it sounds like, in a great way, like you make a good leader and you get it. Have you taken any kind of like additional learning, so to speak? Like, not saying any courses or anything, but do you study leadership, or do you rely on yourself and your instincts?
About that, I'm lucky enough to have a co-founder that's seasoned in game dev. Okay. He used to work as a publisher for the longest time before he got laid off. So we have two sides, right? I'm the side that's more kind of pushing things and experimenting, but when things doesn't work, we default to his way.
Okay.
So he is my safety net, if you wanna come look at it that way, right?
Okay.
And in terms of learning, I learned a lot from him, about game dev and about kind of steering a team, because publishers, you're kind of steering the game developer, right? You're kind of giving them feedback. So he also have that trait, and I learned a lot from him. And also learned a lot from this guy when I did a workshop here locally in Yogyakarta. So one of the sponsors is a pen tablet manufacturer, and the distributor sponsored the show. And the speakers, me and my friend, we had lunch with him, and he owns a business, but he has such a great way of looking at leadership, and I learned a lot from that talk alone. And he was like, yeah, loyalty goes both ways. And the reason I don't use a payroll to pay my employees, and I insist that I want to look at them in the eye and give them the money, because I want to ask each month, do you have a problem that I can help with? And did I do anything to you that offends you? And how can we fix that? Each month he did that to everybody. And he would rather sell his business when COVID hits, sell some of his stores rather than lay off a bunch of people. And I see that as really admirable, because I think one of the things that make our world as bad as it is right now is because a lot of us doesn't really see humans as human. We see humans as statistics and profit, and we sacrifice them at a moment's notice when the margin doesn't go up or it's not high enough. So I think that kind of value will inspire loyalty. And that's why so many people are jumping around workplaces right now, and the turnover rate is high, because you don't show them that you care, because you show them that. And that's one way of doing business, right? It obviously works because many businesses do it that way and they grow really fast, but it's just something that I don't feel like is right for us, because we're a small team, right? And that conversation really inspired me, honestly. Like, I'm really fortunate to be able to meet so many people with a lot of experience that I can talk to. And one of them is also Shadi Safadi, like ran the studio for like 10 years, being, I think, one of the best art directors working. His stuff on The Last of Us, because I know how he works. It's just phenomenal. Like, he has such a distinct way of communicating vision, and such a distinct vision that I think he's one of the best ones working today. And, I'm fortunate enough to be able to talk with him about business and leadership too. So yeah, a lot of people helped me.
Shadia,
that's a long-winded answer.
No,
I'm sorry.
Perfect. Yeah. Shadi's an icon. Like, when I was getting into concept art, and, at that time, a lot of streams and podcasts and talks were blowing up everywhere. And Shadi was someone who popped up in a lot of places. And it was always like very interesting hearing from him, because at least from what I saw, like, he was always straight to the point. He didn't sugarcoat much. It was just a case of like, this is how things are. This is what you should do.
He's got a strong personality.
This makes sense. Exactly. But it seems to know what he wants to do. How did you connect with Shadi, and how did that journey begin with him?
I was working at this local studio, and I was like, I feel like I can get more from what I can do. right? So I just saw that Shadi. At the time, I think The Last of Us came out and posted a bunch of art, and I decided, hey, I want to work with him. So basically, quit my job, spent 2 months learning what they did, and just send him an email, and then he replied like, okay, I let's work. I'll give you an image when there's any available, and give me a contract. And ever since, it's just one email. It happens so quickly. It doesn't feel like anything special, because it should be special, right? But it's just an email. It's so weird. Shadi's that way, right? He was like, okay, let's do it. Snap. And I find that, I can relate to that part of him. Like, it's just, hey, let's do it.
Love it. And is that like, what? So since then, have you been working with him since, or One Pixel Brush since?
Yeah. Ever since, started as a concept artist, and now art directing, and now we're doing a lot of Unreal stuff. We're evolving, so it's fun.
So what was your workflow? Obviously, not giving too much away and not giving any NDA secrets away, but when you first joined there, what was your workflow like versus what it is now?
What was it like is because I think I work in Blender like majority of my workflow back then. It's the same now, but what's different now is that I feel like I have a stronger fundamental knowledge, and because since then and now I consume a lot more media. I think my media diet changed, and you can see that my work changed over time, the type of work I did. And then nowadays, I don't even do that much concept art for One Pixel Brush anymore. I do mostly Unreal stuff. So it's now mostly just making shots, animations, and doing motion capture.
Right. Do you still see that as concept art though? Like, is your mind still in that concept art brain of like solving the brief and, proposing a solution for that? Or is it completely different?
The same muscle works, because the type of concept art that One Pixel did is the kind of really polished, almost illustration quality concept art, right?
Yeah.
So when you make an animation, it's just the same thing, but now it moves, right? And because I've always wanted, because the thing that I didn't mention was when I choose art school, that's because we didn't have money for me to go to film school. Right, so I chose art school because it's cheaper. But I've always wanted to make films, so ever since I had a camera in my phone, I'm just taking a lot of pictures, recording a lot of videos, making cinematographies, and I think that also. And also, I also watch a lot of movies and analyze how they do the camera. I watch a lot of video essays on directors, cinematographers, how they think about their techniques and their themes and how they communicate it. And it just grows naturally in that job. So it's just the same muscle, but with a lot of add-ons.
Sick. So you've always had like a filmmaker's brain or mentality.
Yeah, because films and games is, I think, one of the best art there is for me, because it involves all the type of art in a sense, right? So it's a whole experience, and I think Werner Herzog, if you know, like the German filmmaker, said once that film is the art of the illiterate, not in a bad way, but meaning it's a really stylized medium that many people can connect quickly with. That's what I really like about it.
Yes, filmmaking is astonishing.
Yeah, and I like thinking about themes and thinking deeper about things. I'm really into reading philosophies, books, so that nerdy side of mine really connects well with films too.
What is it about? I have a similar relationship, and I won't, but I can just talk all day long and ramble all day long about films and all the different aspects of it. What is it about?
Ancient Rome.
Oh, have you been to Rome?
No, unfortunately.
I only went we did like a surface level trip, so we didn't really get to explore everything. But what I explored, it was like brain fuel. When you got a creative brain and see that kind of stuff, it's.
Did you go to the Vatican City, Sistine Chapel?
No? We didn't go inside. We went outside. So we stayed there, but we saw a lot of places, and that was 2019, I think. But it still feels like it went yesterday. I still haven't fully process. What I mean by process, like, when you get reference and inspiration, like you kind of have to like process it creatively to see what you thought was in your head is
what's
working
usable,
or whatever.
Yeah.
I've got this like impressive waiting list of just reference and stuff.
Shit.
So like with filmmaking, obviously there's many angles that you can look at it, and you can always see it like in some films. Like some films just are so well shot, look great. The blocking and everything is done right, the choreography, whatever, it just looks great. But sometimes the story is just completely flat and soulless. Sometimes it's reverse, like it's so janky, but it just works so well. What side do you come from films?
I'm more like, I really like the visceral stuff, right? Not necessarily a story that you can comprehend and intellectualize, but not necessarily the most well shot. That's why my favorite director is Wong Kar-wai, the Hong Kong filmmaker, because he is a director that's really good at capturing feeling. When you watch his movie, you can feel it.
What films has he made?
The famous one is Chungking Express, Fallen Angels, and In the Mood for Love. In the Mood for Love is about an affair, and Chungking Express is about unrequited love. And this it's a simple story, right? But you have to see it to believe it. But the way he shot it, he lighted, the way he chose the sets, it's like you being there at that time, and you can feel it. You can feel Hong Kong at the time. You can feel the heartbreak. You can feel the sort of love that you grow as you see people. You can feel the obsession that one person has towards one another. It's so beautiful, and that's visceral to me. And that's why I really like action movies, because it's also visceral. It makes you feel stuff, right? That's why I really like Timo Tjahayanto's film The Night Comes for Us. Night Comes for Us, the Raid movies, it's intense, man. The Raid, it makes it,
The Raid.
I like film, I like films that make you feel stuff rather than make you think. That's why my favorite Nolan film is Interstellar, because it's a sci-fi film, but it's in its core, it's a romance film between father and his daughter. It's a love story, right? Makes you feel things. And that's why I don't really like Tenet that much, because I feel like he went to so this is the story. He went too smart with it. I don't like it.
No, I agree. Like, I recently visited Nolan stuff. I think one of my first, since the first film I seen of his was Memento. And I remember when that came out, I think it was like 90s or something. That was when we first got like cable, like on-demand TV. Not on-demand, like beyond the normal terrestrial channels. And that was like blew my mind. I was like, I've never seen a film like this. And I felt every single thriller, crime type, mind-bending film ever since followed that tone. Like that gritty, like this is not happy, the anti-hero type thing, kind of, whatever. But I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I just revisited all of his films. I have a lot to say on his Batman trilogy, but I still hold it dear to my heart, especially Dark Knight. Absolutely
man.
But Prestige was always my number one Nolan film.
Me too.
And then
Interstellar. Same.
I've flipped it now. After watching it again recently, I've put Interstellar above Prestige. Only because I won't go into it, but like from what I saw, Interstellar came afterwards. Interstellar's a bit more well crafted, I think. Also, when Interstellar came out, I think I just had my first kid. So it was very raw, that whole like, when you're a parent, you have the honeymoon phase of like, I'll do anything for my kid. And it's literally like, it is a bit of an ego trip for a father. Like, I can just travel the universe and save my child, etc., etc. But it's, I love Interstellar, man. But
that's
actually, I disagree. I realized I only like it when they actually start doing the space stuff. The earlier bit when they're like setting the tone and everything in the cornfields. I'm just like, hurry up, man! Let's quickly get to space and then let's enjoy ourselves.
I don't want to see corns.
Yeah. There you go. Well, no. Actually, what did you think of Oppenheimer?
Oppenheimer's also really good, man. I forgot about the movie. Funny enough,
I've only seen it once. I'm not afraid to watch it again. I need to watch it again because I've had like interesting dialogues with people with this. I think it's like absolutely amazing. For no reason, because I don't get anything from this. I'm really happy he got won an Oscar for it and everything else as well. Cillian Murphy, I think, is incredible. I really enjoyed that film. I thought it was incredible. When I watched it in the cinemas, in IMAX, I was like, yes, this is perfect. One of my my brother, also a Nolan fanboy. He wasn't feeling it, so it's interesting when we misalign on what we agree with, because he articulates it well. Like that's like, I hate it, I don't like it, or kind of thing. He was like, this isn't my favorite Nolan film. So I've heard mixed reviews with Oppenheimer. So I was curious to know what your take on that film is.
I think what I really like about Oppenheimer is the fact that Nolan's style is super duper grounded. Like everything must be realistic as fuck. Really works with that movie because the theme is about a person who creates a weapon of mass destruction, right? And I think if you depict that in a way that Zack Snyder would probably depict it, it would probably over glorify too much because it's gonna look so fucking cool, right?
Yeah.
Or if you portray with some other kind of director style, let's say Wong Kar-wai, then it's not going to have the same effect as if you do it realistically. Meaning, you can now kind of have a telescope to see it almost as if you're there, and you can judge it for what it is. This event, this terrible weapon that can be a weapon, but also can be the thing that saves humanity. And also, I really like Cillian Murphy's portrayal because you can really feel his despair and his regret later down the line. And Robert Downey Jr. also did a really phenomenal job. Yes. But I think more than anything, the Nolan's obsession with realism really lends really well to that movie.
Yes.
Right. And then
I like what you mentioned about realism.
Yeah.
I used to battle with that because growing up, it was all about. I'm born in the 80s, so I grew up mainly in the 90s. So everything was about advancement in technology, like we want better graphics, and I want 8-bit graphics, make it look sexier, etc., etc., etc. Then when he came along, he was like, I needed to be grounded and practical. I only learned to appreciate over time because I was like, it's a space film. Why don't you use technology to make it as grand and crazy as possible? But the most gangster thing you could have done was use CGI in a scientific way to make a black hole, which to me is like one of the most iconic moments in any sci-fi kind of film. But even like in his Batman films, like
that moment's beautiful.
Like because it's practical, you lose a bit of dynamism. You don't get that kind of dynamic thing you can do with, like in the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, for example. But because it's practical, it has to have restrictions. And that groundedness does add to tension and all these kind of things as well. So over time, I've kind of reached his point of view as well. Like even things being on film.
Exactly.
Like for me, I'd say it's a bit extreme. I'm quite relaxed with whether it's digital or whatever. But I 1,000,000% understand his conviction behind that. And the fact that he can make it work, he has the resources as well, which is fair enough. But yeah, I respect that angle too.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm trying to say with Oppenheimer is that I like the fact that he doesn't glorify it, but he also doesn't really condemn it. He lets you see it for what it is. That's what I really like. That's why realism works so well in that movie. But on Interstellar and on Batman, some fight scenes can look clunky, right? But it's just his style, and it's what makes it really cool. And people said that Matt Reeves' new Batman is realism. I don't think it's realism. I think it's heightened realism. Right, it's almost hyper realism.
Yes.
Yeah, realism is Nolan's. I feel like.
Yes. No. Yeah. Interesting point, actually. So when Matt Reeves' Batman, at first when it came out, I was like, I like what he tried to do, but I wasn't warm to it at first. I was like, this isn't my kind of Batman. Like, my kind of Batman is the animated series, and I think visually, silhouette wise, Zack Snyder's Batman is probably what I would say a movie Batman should look like, kind of thing. It's very close to the comics and the cartoons. It's like, at least visually in my sense, and his Batmobile too. And the Tumbler, when the Tumbler first came out, I was like, I like what it's proposing.
Which Tumbler?
Nolan's Tumbler. And I was like, it's iconic. But at first I was like, that's not a Batmobile. That's too grounded and making it look too stealthy. Obviously, over time, I respect the Tumbler. Again, visually, I think Zack Snyder's Batmobile is probably the coolest one, just in terms of what I grew up on and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the Matt Reeves one I thought is cool. Very, very grounded. I wouldn't call it realistic, but I think in terms of darkness, everyone called Nolan's Batman quite gritty and dark versus all the previous ones that came out. Obviously, Tim Burton's is very theatrical, but that was quite like, dark as well.
Almost.
Yes, exactly. But Nolan's was there because, you know, like even today, even till now, the Scarecrow is pretty freaky, man. And the nightmare sequence with Batman, that is still like that's horror grade in terms of like how Batman looks. So I always thought, okay, that's that. And then the Batman, I was like, okay, that's more pushing it. It's very grounded, but it's pushing it more darker, like almost psychologically darker. Like everybody there involved, in my opinion, even Batman himself or Bruce Wayne, these are mentally twisted people. They've had trauma and what have you. And have you finished the Penguin series?
Oh yeah, man! Holy shit!
So that, not to give any spoilers, but that almost makes that universe, that Gotham, the most brutal place
now remembering it
possible. So as a result, when I rewatched the Batman again, I was like, no, I misread this first, and that's the second best Batman film, in my opinion, after Dark Knight.
Yeah, I think for me, in my opinion, is that the Dark Knight is, if you go toe to toe, I think it's a different thing. I think the Dark Knight is one version of Batman, but this Matt Reeves Batman is showing the kind of Batman that we've never seen before, which is the more detective side, right?
Yes.
That's why it's really cool, I feel like. And Robert Pattinson is just really cool.
Yes.
I have the art book, and turns out that the inspiration for his visage and his demeanor is Kurt Cobain.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
That's why the soundtrack's Nirvana.
Yeah, no, of course. And I agreed. And growing up, and a bit unrelated, but my wife was recently watching, because she hadn't watched them, the Daniel Craig James Bond series. Growing up as a kid on a Saturday in the UK, like that would always be, a James Bond film would always be on. As a kid growing up, anything with gadgets and cool cars and all that kind of stuff, it's like awesome, right? It's just like your classic Saturday cartoon. So I've always had a fondness to James Bond, and a similar kind of thing. What happened with Daniel Craig's James Bond? He'll actually call Batman actually. James Bond. It was the grounded element of it, and it was more realistic, and it made more sense. Like, let's make all these adventures more cohesive, make more sense. But there was this kind of like a grittiness to it, but it kind of loses it, so to speak. And what I think with the Matt Reeves Batman, especially after watching The Penguin, is like, I am so invested in this universe of Batman that it makes the most sense. And like with the especially the Matt Reeves one, I've always like, and the Daniel Craig ones as well, didn't have it as much. I was complaining this, having a rant to my wife as well. Like growing up, the James Bond films, it was all about the gadgets. Like you had a moment where like about a good 20 minutes of showing off, these are your new toys. And then the rest of the movie is him using these toys.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Batman's the same, like in the cartoons, in the games, what have you. There's a moment where like you get this new toy. I know they do it with the tumbler. They're doing kind of every film, and you get to use all these, these new things, and that's what saves the day. In they do it well, I think, but in the Matt Reeves one, you don't see that so much because it's still like really Batman. And I was like, I miss that. Like I miss the almost juvenile aspect of like, looking what toys we have and let's play with them. However, again, revisiting again, I accept it, and I'm fully on board.
That's why I'm excited about James Gunn's Superman, because I think he's not afraid to go into the campy side of things.
Yes.
Right. So I'm excited because culture is always a pendulum now. We had an obsession with gritty and realistic. Now it's swinging back to more comical, and because Man of Steel and Superman's really depressed all the time, but James Gunn Superman, I think he wants to write it like what he's supposed to be in the comics, which is a Boy Scout, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, the DC verse, I guess, like just the DC, especially like just Batman alone, I think, I always find it stupid ranking things, especially as I get older now, like it doesn't make sense, but I always do it anyway. And Batman as a superhero is my favorite one. I think across the board, it's bad guys, it's superhero and all the things involved. Like there's nothing else like it, so to speak. And I know like Marvel and DC are almost like the same thing. They just have different names in certain aspects. But there's something, like if you think about it, the Batman films alone, like the fact that you got so much variety from this one character, and they almost tell the story the same every single iteration, but it still works. Every single one, so to speak. Maybe
Always
there's one
works,
or two. There's like, it has this fan base. I mean, the fact that you can have, and I'm very excited to see, I haven't seen the second Joker yet, but whatever Matt Reeves does with that particular character, it's quite rare that there's so many iterations of this one character, like Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, and obviously Joaquin Phoenix. Like you can have, and even the Batmans too, very iconic takes that are equally classic in their own right of this character. And it almost seems like when we saw Heath Ledger's Joker, thinking, wow, this guy's a monster. Like he's messed up, but it equally gets more and more messed up, which is crazy as well. But I don't know what my point was there. Just having a bit of a bat fest.
Yeah. Who's your favorite? I think the best Batman for me is Ben Affleck, but the best Bruce Wayne is Christian Bale. What about you?
I'm very biased because I spent more time with this film than all the others. I do like Christian Bale as Batman. I think Heath Ledger is the best Joker. After revisiting it again, like that Joker, the way he performed it is so cool. Like the opening sequence alone, the way that was performed and choreographed, and even things like, because he doesn't speak, he's maybe, I don't know if it's stuntable, but he's like silhouette, and the way the masks work, it's just fucking genius.
Yeah,
and the way he performs, exactly, like from comical switching to very sinister to evil, back to like being goofy, like that's incredible. So I would pick him as a Joker, although I think my favorite one is Mark Hamill's Joker, which is obviously the one in the games and in the animated series, mainly because I grew up on that. But even that look of the Joker, that is a very creepy looking Joker. Like that guy is not a good guy, the way it's designed. And Batman, I think time will show that the one with the best screen presence, I think, although Patterson might be the one in the end, is Michael Keaton's. Because he would, like, if you think about it, it's, of all the casting, he's probably the most oddest one. Like, he would probably never get picked as, you're going to be the Batman. He's almost like what Bruce Willis is at the time to, like, action stars. Like, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then they had Bruce Willis. Like, he's like the Bruce Willis of the Batmans. And I think Michael Keaton's awesome as well. But I've had so much time with that film. I drew that logo so many times as a kid as well. I have a fondness for that as well. But I think we're spoiled for the different types of Batmans that we've had. Even like George Clooney's and Val Kilmer's Batmans always thought were cool as well. Those bat nips are actually quite cool, so I'll take them. So it's great. What about yours?
Cold outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man, it's Ben, and for me, Joker. For me, I agree with you, Heath Ledger. Although I'm curious to see what the new Joker is going to be like. Right? What's the actor name? Forgot.
It's Barry, I think. Right? Or like
Barry. Yeah.
In the Batman, he's uncredited, but he's the one that is in the cell when
in the deleted scene too.
Yeah, exactly. And as an actor, like it just makes sense. Like that guy seems like he can do anything. So that's what you want for a Joker.
Yeah, I really want to see, but I'm hoping they don't use Joker yet. I want to see the other villains too. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
this is why I respected Nolan's Batman Begins. Like these are bad guys you never really saw. Like they were not the go-to picks. Equally, like when Marvel, obviously for rights reasons, when they became big, they use none of the A-list superheroes that you would have expected.
Guardians of the Galaxy, who the fuck knows?
I mean, Iron Man, I grew up on the cartoons. Iron Man was always like the guy that came around that odd episode, as opposed to being the main person. It was always the X-Men, it was always Spider-Man and a few others. So using and using Scarecrow as the main bad guy, I was like, I don't know this guy. Like, where is any of the main people? But that's also, from a filmmaker and a storyteller's perspective, it gives you more to work off. Like, you can be like, okay, I'm going to tell you a different story that you're not going to expect through this lens that you're not familiar with, and it gives you more of a cleaner canvas, so to speak. But I agree with you. Like, visually, I think Ben Affleck's Batman is movie's best Batman. That's my take.
Yeah, embodies it so well, especially with, I'm not a big fan of the later armored suit, but the gray fabric suit. Man. Dude,
it looks like spongy and it's
that is Batman, dude.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So with all this film talk, I know we can wrap up soon because now we have to head off. What kind of goals are you looking to hit, or at least as a, I mean, what would you label this now? So like, it's the kind of filmmaking, it's kind of like game dev, it's kind of still being an artist. Do you have like a label for it, or is it kind of all of those clumped in one?
Yeah, it's just an artist, but I think I'm really hoping that this game will take off and we can make some more cool stuff, because me and my co-founder, our plan is not only doing games. If we manage to get this thing off the ground, we want to do so much things. We want to do animations. We want to do a different type of game, perhaps. We want to do a lot of stuff, just a lot of stuff. Yeah, and hopefully that's my future would be. So fingers crossed. And I really resonate to this quote by Saul Bass. He the one who made the titles for 7 movies. And it was like, I want to create beautiful things even when nobody cares. Yes. It resonates with me so much.
That's so well put, man. I was gonna say any final thoughts, but that's probably one of the great final thoughts. But yeah, anything you'd like to add or plug or share before we head off?
Yeah, I think I want to plug, if you happen to like horror games, you can wishlist our game. It's called Agni Village of Calamity. It's on Steam right now. You can follow me on my socials, and that's all I think. And shout out to the team who's been helping me. Shout out to Shadi. Shout out to everybody who's been helping me throughout my life. And shout out to you for having me here.
Awesome, man. This is incredible.
Yeah, I took so many Learn Squared classes, dude.
Yeah, I've seen your work over the years, man. And I was like, I think the first one I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, was I think Jan Ursel's production concept art. I think it was that one. I was like, okay, cool, this is sick. And then seeing your work over the years, like, yeah, it's elite. So kudos to continuing to kick ass.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome, man. That was amazing chatting with you, and we should definitely do another one.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Huge thanks to Leo for an incredible conversation. Be sure to hit the links to see what Leo's up to and give him a follow. And then head to learnsquared.com, take some of our courses just like Leo did. And remember, all of our first lessons are free. I've been your host, Darren Danda. Till next time.